Imagine this. You're standing in your backyard in southern Missouri. It's Wednesday afternoon, March 18th, 1925. The air feels wrong. Not cold, not hot, but thick, oppressive, the kind of humidity that makes your shirt cling to your back even though it's only 63 degrees. You notice the sky first. To the southwest, it's taken on a color you've never seen before. Not gray, not green, something in between. A bruised, sickly yellow-green that seems to pulse with its own light. The wind has stopped completely. The chickens have gone silent. Your neighbor's dog, the one that barks at everything, is whimpering under the porch. You feel it in your chest before you hear it. A pressure, like the air itself is being squeezed. Then comes the sound. At first it's distant. A low rumble that you mistake for a train, even though the tracks are 2 miles away and no train is scheduled until evening. But the sound grows and grows. It doesn't fade like a passing locomotive. It intensifies. Within 60 seconds, it's transformed into something primordial, a roar. Witnesses will later compare it to 1,000 freight trains, to waterfalls, to the end of the world. But those comparisons won't capture the register of it, the way it seems to vibrate in your bones, the way it makes your teeth ache. You turn toward the sound, and that's when you see it. A wall. Moving across the earth, not a funnel, not the slim dancing tornadoes you've seen in picture books. This is a mile-wide cylinder of absolute darkness, so thick with debris that you cannot see through it. It's devouring everything in its path. Trees vanish into it. Buildings explode into splinters and are consumed. The wall is crowned with a boiling mass of clouds that seem to be feeding it from above, like some terrible umbilical cord connecting earth to sky. You have perhaps 90 seconds to live, but you don't know that yet. Because in 1925, there is no warning system, no weather radio, no tornado siren. The word tornado itself is banned from official weather forecasts because authorities believe using it will cause mass panic. So you stand there, in your backyard, watching the wall approach, and your mind refuses to process what you're seeing, because nothing in your experience has prepared you for this. Nothing in human experience has prepared anyone for what's about to happen. The tri-state tornado is coming, and it will become the deadliest single tornado in American history. In 3.5 hours, it will travel 219 miles across Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. It will kill 695 people, injure more than 2,000, destroy 15,000 homes. Entire towns will cease to exist. And it will do all of this without warning, without mercy, and without precedent. This is the story of that day, not just the statistics, not just the meteorology, but the lived experience. The moment when the American Midwest learned that nature still had the power to erase human civilization in minutes. The day when the illusion of safety shattered across 3 states. To understand March 18, 1925, you must first understand what that day was supposed to be. It was supposed to be ordinary. The American Midwest in 1925 was a place of profound optimism. The Great War was 7 years behind. The economy was roaring. Calvin Coolidge sat in the White House preaching his gospel of prosperity and small government. In the towns that would soon be destroyed, people were living through what they believed was the beginning of an endless American ascent. Electricity was reaching rural areas. Automobiles were replacing horses. The radio was bringing the world into living rooms. Progress wasn't just a concept. It was tangible. You could touch it. In Murphysboro, Illinois, a coal mining town of 11,000 souls, the morning of March 18th began like any other. Men descended into the mines before dawn. Children walked to school. The Grand Opera House was preparing for that week's vaudeville show. The town had survived the coal strikes of the previous year. Employment was up. Main Street was bustling. There was talk of paving more roads, of bringing in more businesses. Murphysboro was growing. In Annapolis, Missouri, population 300, farmers were preparing their fields for spring planting. The winter had been mild, the soil was good. There was every reason to believe 1925 would be a prosperous year. The town's general store had just received a shipment of new seed catalogs. Farm wives were planning their gardens, discussing which vegetables would fetch the best prices at market. In Griffin, Indiana, the smallest of the communities that would be hit, life moved at an even gentler pace. 69 people called it home. Most were farmers. A few ran small businesses. Everyone knew everyone, the kind of place where you didn't lock your doors because there was no need. The kind of place where tragedy was a failed harvest or a sick cow, not annihilation. This was the paradox. These communities felt safe because they had always been safe. Tornadoes happened. Yes. But they were brief, localized. They touched down, did some damage to a barn or two, and lifted back into the sky. They were pranks of nature, not executioners. The idea that a tornado could stay on the ground for over 3 hours, could maintain its strength across 219 miles, could obliterate entire towns. It was unthinkable. The weather forecasters of 1925 shared this complacency. The U.S. Weather Bureau had been founded in 1890, but it was still a primitive operation. Weather stations were scattered. Communication was slow. Meteorologists relied on surface observations and intuition. They had no satellite imagery, no Doppler radar, no computer models. They couldn't see inside storms. They couldn't track rotation. And critically, they were forbidden from using the word tornado in public forecasts. The Bureau's leadership believed that tornado warnings would cause more harm than good, that panicked citizens would hurt themselves fleeing imaginary threats. So on the morning of March 18th, when conditions began to align for what would become the perfect storm, no warnings were issued. The Weather Bureau noted possible thunderstorms in its forecast. Nothing more. Farmers went to their fields, miners went underground, children sat in their classrooms. And over the Ozark Plateau in southeastern Missouri, something ancient and terrible began to take shape. By noon, the atmospheric ingredients were in place. Warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico was surging north, colliding with a cold front pushing down from Canada. The jet stream was positioned perfectly to provide wind shear. The instability was off the charts. Any meteorologist with modern tools would have issued a high-risk severe weather outlook, would have been tracking storm cells, would have been preparing for the worst. But in 1925, no one was watching. No one was ready. And at approximately 1 p.m. Central Time, near the town of Ellington, Missouri, the sky gave birth to a monster. p.m. Annapolis, Missouri. The tornado forms not as a slender funnel, but as a massive wedge, already half a mile wide at its base. It touches down in Reynolds County, in the rugged forested hills southeast of Annapolis. The first structure it encounters is a farmhouse. The building doesn't collapse, it explodes. Witnesses 5 miles away will report that the house seemed to disintegrate into atoms as if struck by an invisible fist. The family inside, the Bollinger family, vanishes. Their bodies will never be recovered. The tornado has announced itself. It moves northeast at 62 miles per hour. Not the lazy drift of a typical tornado, but a purposeful locomotive-like charge. The forward speed is critical. It means people have less time to react, less time to reach safety. It means the tornado will cover more ground, will destroy more completely, will kill more efficiently. 1:15 p.m., Annapolis, Missouri. The tornado barrels into Annapolis itself. The town has no warning. Most residents are indoors, eating lunch, escaping the strange humidity outside. They hear the roar. Some run for their cellars. Most don't have time. The tornado is so wide that it engulfs the entire town simultaneously. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Buildings constructed of native timber and limestone disintegrate. The Methodist Church, which had stood for 43 years, is reduced to kindling in seconds. The general store, the post office, the school, all gone. Of the town's 300 residents, 4 are killed instantly, dozens more are injured. But Annapolis is small, its buildings spread out. The tornado is just getting started. Survivors will describe the debris cloud. It's not just dust and dirt. It's everything: boards, bricks, entire sections of wall farm equipment, livestock, all of it churning in the air at over 200 miles per hour. One man, taking shelter in his cellar, watches through a small window as his barn, his tractor, and his prize bull are lifted into the sky and disappear. The bull is never found. 30 p.m., rural Illinois. The tornado crosses the Mississippi River, leaving Missouri and entering Illinois. This alone is remarkable. Most tornadoes die when they encounter major rivers, disrupted by the change in terrain and temperature. The tri-state tornado doesn't even slow down. If anything, it intensifies. Meteorologists will later theorize that the tornado was tapping into multiple sources of instability, that it was regenerating itself continuously, that it was less a single tornado and more a sustained supercell producing one continuous vortex. But that analysis is years away. Right now, in this moment, the tornado is an engine of pure destruction moving across the farmland of southern Illinois. It's now 3/4 of a mile wide. The debris cloud extends 2 miles into the sky. Inside the vortex, the pressure drop is so extreme that buildings don't just collapse. They implode. Witnesses describe seeing houses seem to breathe in just before they burst outward. Farmers caught in their fields don't see it coming until it's too late. The terrain is flat, yes, but the tornado is moving so fast and is wrapped in so much rain and debris that visibility is near zero. Men are plowing behind horses, working on fences, checking on livestock. The roar gives them seconds. Some dive into ditches, some run for their barns. Most die where they stand, either struck by debris or swept into the vortex itself. 1:50 p.m., Gorham, Illinois. Gorham, population 500, sits in a shallow valley. Its residents know something is wrong. The sky has turned that sick green color. The wind has picked up, then died completely. Some people have taken shelter, but most are still going about their day because this is still 1925, and the idea that a tornado could wipe out an entire town is science fiction. The tornado drops into the valley like a hammer. It strikes the western edge of town first. The Del Mar Hotel is torn from its foundation and rolled like a child's toy. The high school takes a direct hit. It's 2 p.m. Classes are in session. The building collapses. Students and teachers are buried in the rubble. 11 people die in the school alone. The tornado grinds through Gorham's downtown. Businesses that have operated for generations cease to exist. The bank, the pharmacy, the hardware store, all gone. Survivors emerge from cellars to find their town erased. Streets they've walked their entire lives are unrecognizable. Every landmark is gone. The destruction is so complete that rescuers arriving from nearby towns will get lost, unable to navigate by memory. But the tornado is not done with Illinois. It's barely started. 15 p.m., Murphysboro, Illinois. Murphysboro is different. Murphysboro is a real city. 11,000 people. Brick buildings, paved streets, a hospital, a business district, modern infrastructure. Murphysboro represents progress, civilization, permanence. Murphysboro should be safe. It isn't. The tornado enters from the northwest, crossing the big muddy river. Coal miners, working 200 feet underground, feel the mines shake. Above ground, the destruction is biblical. The tornado is now at its maximum width, 1 full mile. It engulfs 40 city blocks simultaneously. There is no edge to it, no safe side. If you're in its path, you're inside it. The Longfellow School is demolished. 35 children die. The Grand Opera House collapses mid-afternoon. The residential neighborhoods on the north side of town are obliterated. Entire blocks of homes vanish. The tornado is so powerful that it's stripping bark from trees, embedding pieces of straw into wooden beams like arrows, driving planks through brick walls. But it's the small indignities that survivors remember most. A woman takes shelter in her cellar with her 3 children. The house above them disintegrates. They survive, but when they emerge, they discover that the tornado has taken everything. Every photograph, every letter from her dead husband, her mother's wedding ring, the quilt her grandmother made, the family Bible. All of it gone, scattered across 3 states, irretrievable. She sits in the rubble and weeps, not for the house, but for the memories. A man watches his neighbor's house explode. The family inside, the Harrisons, are thrown through the air. He finds Mrs. Harrison 200 yards away, alive but impaled through the abdomen by a fence post. She dies in his arms, asking about her children. He lies and tells her they're fine. He doesn't know where they are. He won't find their bodies until the next day. The tornado guts Murphysboro in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. When it exits to the northeast, it leaves behind 234 dead, 800 injured, 40% of the city destroyed. Fires are breaking out in the wreckage. Water mains are ruptured. The hospital is gone. The fire station is gone. The infrastructure needed to respond to the disaster has been destroyed by the disaster itself. And still, the tornado continues. 4:45 p.m., DeSoto, Illinois. DeSoto, population 600, is having a normal Wednesday afternoon. Children are in school. The mines are operating. The tornado has ravaged Murphysboro, 11 miles to the southwest, but news travels slowly in 1925. There are no phones in most homes, no radio broadcasts. DeSoto doesn't know what's coming. The tornado barrels into the town from the southwest. The DeSoto school takes a direct hit at 2:47 p.m. The 2-story building collapses instantly. It's the middle of the school day. 125 students and teachers are inside. The upper floor pancakes onto the lower. Children are crushed, suffocated, buried alive. Rescuers arrive within minutes, but they're overwhelmed. Parents dig through the rubble with their bare hands, calling out names, listening for cries. Some children are pulled out alive, many are not. The final death toll from the school alone is 33. It's the deadliest single-building tornado casualty event in American history, a record that still stands. One teacher, Miss Emma Reasoner, is found shielding 3 students with her body. All 3 students survive. Miss Reasoner does not. Her story will be repeated in newspapers across the country, held up as an example of heroism, of sacrifice. But in DeSoto, in the days after, no one speaks of heroism. They speak only of loss. 3:15 p.m., rural Illinois to Indiana. The tornado races across southern Illinois, clipping smaller communities, destroying farms, killing in 1s and 2s. It's been on the ground for over 2 hours now, has traveled more than 150 miles, and it shows no signs of weakening. This defies all conventional wisdom about tornadoes. They're supposed to be brief. Local. This is something else, something unprecedented. At 3:30 p.m., the tornado crosses the Wabash River into Indiana. It's the 3rd state. The storm has now earned its name, the Tri-State Tornado. In Indiana, it will continue for another 40 miles, destroying the towns of Griffin, Owensville, and Princeton. But its strength is finally beginning to wane. The instability that fed it is dissipating. The vortex is stretching, thinning. 4:30 p.m., Princeton, Indiana. The tornado makes its final attack on Princeton, a town of 7,000. It strikes the eastern edge of the city, destroying a residential neighborhood and a school. 45 people die, but the tornado is now a shadow of what it was. It's narrower, slower, less organized. At approximately 4:38 p.m., 3.5 hours after it touched down in Missouri, the tri-state tornado finally lifts back into the sky. It dissipates over rural Pike County, Indiana. The vortex collapses, the debris falls, the roar fades. Behind it, across 219 miles, across 3 states, across dozens of communities, lies devastation on a scale America has never seen from a single storm. In the days and weeks following March 18, 1925, questions emerge. Urgent, angry questions. How did this happen? Why was there no warning? Could this have been prevented? The answers are uncomfortable. First, there's the failure of technology. The Weather Bureau in 1925 is operating with tools that are barely better than those used 50 years earlier. They have barometers, thermometers, and wind gauges. They have no way to see inside storms, no way to detect rotation, no way to track a tornado's path in real time. The infrastructure simply doesn't exist. Even if meteorologists had wanted to warn people, they had no way to see what was happening until it was too late. But technology isn't the whole story. There's also institutional arrogance. The Weather Bureau's ban on the word tornado in forecasts isn't just a quirk. It's policy, backed by the force of federal authority. The reasoning is paternalistic. Bureau officials believe that ordinary Americans can't handle tornado warnings, that they'll panic, that false alarms will cause more harm than good. So they say nothing. They issue vague warnings about severe thunderstorms and hope for the best. This policy will finally change after the tri-state tornado, but too late for the 695 people who died. Too late for the thousands injured, too late for the towns erased from the map. Then there's the question of the tornado itself. Was it predictable? Meteorologists studying the event afterward identify all the classic ingredients for a major outbreak. The warm, moist air from the Gulf, the cold front, the wind shear, the instability. On paper, March 18, 1925 was a perfect setup for severe weather. But that's hindsight. In the moment, without modern tools, without satellite data, without Doppler radar, the signs were invisible to those who needed to see them, and even if warnings had been issued, where would people have gone? In 1925, most homes don't have basements. Many are wooden structures that offer virtually no protection against an F5 tornado. Schools are built with large, open rooms and minimal structural reinforcement. Even the best warning system can't save you if you have nowhere safe to go. The tri-state tornado exposes an uncomfortable truth. America in 1925 is more vulnerable than anyone wants to admit. The infrastructure of modern life, the cities and schools and hospitals, are fragile. Nature retains the power to shatter them. Progress is an illusion. Safety is an illusion. And when those illusions break, hundreds die. But there's another layer to this failure, one that takes years to fully understand. The tri-state tornado isn't just a freak event. It's a product of specific atmospheric conditions that can and will happen again. The same setup that created this monster can create others. Without better forecasting, without early warning systems, without stronger building codes, it will happen again, and it does. The Tupelo, Mississippi tornado of 1936. The Gainesville, Georgia tornado of 1936. The Flint, Michigan tornado of 1953. The Waco, Texas tornado of 1953. Each one kills over 100 people. Each one exposes the same vulnerabilities. It takes decades, dozens of disasters, thousands of deaths, before America finally builds the infrastructure needed to protect itself from tornadoes. The tri-state tornado is the beginning of that painful education. In the immediate aftermath, there is silence. Survivors of the tri-state tornado consistently describe the minutes after the storm passes as the quietest moments of their lives. The roar has stopped, the wind has died, and in its place is an eerie, absolute stillness. No birds, no insects, no sounds of human activity, just silence, broken only by the crackle of fires starting in the wreckage and the distant cries of the injured. Then comes the shock. People emerge from cellars, from ditches, from beneath piles of rubble, and they cannot process what they're seeing. Their world is gone. Streets they've walked every day are unrecognizable. Homes where they've lived for decades are piles of timber. Neighbors they've known their entire lives are dead or missing. The human mind is not equipped to handle this level of sudden loss, so for minutes, sometimes hours, survivors simply wander. They walk through the debris in a daze, not speaking, not weeping, just trying to understand. In Murphysboro, a woman finds a photograph in the ruins. It's not hers. It's a wedding portrait, a couple she doesn't recognize, from a town she's never heard of. The tornado has carried it nearly 50 miles. She pins it to what's left of her fence, hoping someone will claim it. No one ever does. In DeSoto, a father digs through the ruins of the school for 7 hours, looking for his daughter. He finds her shoes. He never finds her. But humans are resilient in ways that defy logic. Within hours, survivors begin organizing. They form bucket brigades to fight fires. They set up makeshift hospitals in buildings that are still standing. They pull the injured from the rubble, using nothing but their hands and whatever tools they can salvage. There's no coordinated disaster response, no FEMA, no Red Cross chapter in most of these towns. Just people, helping people, because that's what you do. The National Guard arrives within 24 hours, setting up command posts, bringing medical supplies, establishing order. The Red Cross mobilizes, eventually providing aid to over 13,000 families. Donations pour in from across the country. But in those first hours, in those first days, survival is local. It's neighbor helping neighbor. It's the farmer who lost everything sharing what little food he has. It's the doctor who works 48 hours straight, setting bones and stitching wounds until he collapses from exhaustion. There are moments of grace. A child is found alive in the ruins of a home 3 days after the tornado, dehydrated but uninjured, protected by a collapsed staircase that formed a small pocket of safety. A dog leads rescuers to its owner, trapped under debris, alive. A Bible, thrown from a destroyed church, is found in a field 20 miles away, open to Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. But mostly, there is grief. A grief so profound, so total, that many survivors never fully recover. They rebuild their homes. They replant their fields. They return to work. But something has broken inside them. They've seen what nature can do. They've learned that safety is temporary, that loss is instant, that everything you love can vanish in minutes. The towns rebuild. Murphysboro rises from the ruins. DeSoto constructs a new school, this one with a basement, with reinforced walls, with storm shelters. Griffin, Indiana, the tiny hamlet that lost 25 of its 69 residents, rebuilds more slowly, but it rebuilds. The human capacity for resilience, for choosing to continue in the face of total loss, is remarkable. But the tornado changes these places forever. For decades afterward, survivors will flinch at the sound of distant thunder. They'll watch the sky obsessively in spring. They'll build storm cellars where none existed before. They'll tell their children and grandchildren the stories, passing down the knowledge, the fear, the hard-won wisdom that nature is not tamed, that disaster is always possible, that you must always be ready. What do we learn from the tri-state tornado? What lesson does this horror teach us? Perhaps it's this: we are fragile, all of us. Our cities, our technologies, our carefully constructed lives, they are thinner than we want to believe. We build them on the assumption of stability, of predictability, of safety, and most days, that assumption holds. The sun rises, the wind is gentle, life continues. But sometimes the assumptions break. Sometimes nature reminds us that we are not separate from it, not above it, not safe from it. We are part of it, subject to its power, vulnerable to its violence. The 695 people who died on March 18, 1925, were not special. They were not careless. They were not tempting fate. They were ordinary people, living ordinary lives on what should have been an ordinary day. They died because they had the misfortune to be in the path of something ancient and terrible, something that cared nothing for their hopes or dreams or futures. The tri-state tornado was not a punishment. It was not divine judgment. It was physics, atmosphere, energy-seeking equilibrium. It was nature doing what nature does, indifferent to the human cost. And that, perhaps, is the most unsettling lesson of all. We want disasters to mean something. We want them to have purpose, to teach us, to change us. But the tornado meant nothing. It simply was. It formed, it destroyed, it dissipated. The meaning comes only from what we do after, how we respond, how we rebuild, how we prepare for the next time. Because there will be a next time. There always is. The sky is never truly safe. The ground is never truly solid, and the illusion of security is just that, an illusion. The tri-state tornado shattered that illusion across 3 states, across 219 miles, across 695 lives. The wreckage it left behind wasn't just physical, it was psychological, spiritual, a permanent scar on the American consciousness. We are still living with that scar. We are still learning from that day. Every tornado warning, every weather satellite, every reinforced shelter, every evacuation plan, they are all echoes of March 18, 1925. They are our collective promise to the dead. We will not forget. We will be better prepared. We will not let this happen again without warning. But we cannot promise it won't happen again, because the sky does not listen to promises. The wind does not care about our preparations, and somewhere, someday, the conditions will align again. The warm air will meet the cold, the instability will build, and something terrible will be born. When that day comes, we will remember the tri-state tornado. We will remember the 695. We will remember that on one spring afternoon in 1925, nature showed us exactly how small we are, how temporary, how fragile. And we will face it as those people faced it, with whatever courage we can muster. Because that is what humans do. We endure, we survive, we rebuild. Not because we are strong, but because we have no other choice. The tornado is over. The dead are buried. The towns are rebuilt. But the lesson remains, carved into the earth itself, written in the silence that followed the roar. We are not safe. We never were, and we must learn to live with that truth.